Okay.
Okay, I think the recording has started, Rick.
The recording has started. So now let me see if it will. It should, right? I can share my browser, and let me know when you can see it.
I can see it. So let me kick off the show here. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Azure News. It's so good to see you. I'm seeing my computer here at my house. It's kind of home edition, right?
Totally.
Just like the late night shows.
Yeah. Well, it's like, when you lose on Wheel of Fortune, you get the home edition kind of deal.
So not true, quite. Rick.
Yeah, so it's crazy, man. It's Mark and I were talking before the show. We literally, this is the first time we've actually been in like face-to-face virtual contact since kind of March something, I think was our last show or something to that effect, which is really insane.
March. Yeah, it's crazy. And so today it's May 18th.
May 18th.
And this is episode
89.
89. Episode 89. So welcome everybody.
Yeah.
So excited to be back on the air. Good to see everybody.
It really is.
All right, Rick.
Even if it's virtually.
It is virtually. And Rick, of course, as everyone can see, you are I'm
in the Millennium Falcon cockpit. I am actually I'm bouncing around right now. We have hit an asteroid field. I got to be careful because you can't make the jump to light speed without careful calculations. Because the last thing you want to happen is to skip off a star, and then you're just stardust. No, thank you.
It's all bad.
And Mark is coming to us from...
I'm in Minecraft. I mean, I've been watching my son play Minecraft. Not that I let him have a lot of screen time. No, never. No. We are totally on. We're totally on topic all day, every day.
I expect nothing but from you, by the way. So before we get in, I just want to make an observation, right? So in technology, a lot of people we have a stereotype, right? We're kind of nerdy, introverted, geeky, right? I mean, that's who we are. And I own it. I embrace it, right? I mean, and I'll tell you what, after my college experience and everything else and athletics, it's kind of good to be on this side of the fence. But what I will say is I absolutely recognize the fact that I have become a social creature. Okay. This whole lockdown, this whole, social distancing, all this other stuff. I thrive on human interaction. And I wish I would have known that a long time ago, because I probably would be a much saner person. But I do want to just say, go ahead.
I was just going to say, here we are getting some social interaction, which is great.
We really are. And for those of you who are listening or viewing, I really hope that, you're doing okay. These are interesting times. These are unprecedented times for our generation. Not like, we weren't around in 1918 for the flu, the global pandemic or epidemic or whatever it was. But so I really hope you're doing okay. First and foremost, right? Take care of yourself, take care of your mind, take care of your body. And having said that, we can help you take care of your mind.
Yeah, and tweet at us if you're doing okay. We'd love to hear from you.
Please. Would love to hear people checking in on the Twitters. By all means, tweet us at Azure Flash News. Would love to hear from you, how you're doing. You know what? Here's what I'd like to hear. How are you coping with this? How are you staying sane? And from now until the next show, we'll let people tweet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a random tweet or two, and you're going to get an Azure Flash News coffee mug.
Yes.
So do it. I want to see.
Wake yourself up in the morning. Help wake yourself up in the morning during quarantine with Azure Flash News coffee mug.
Please do. So get the tweets coming. Anyway, so we're going to help you try and stay sane, exercise your brain a little bit.
That's right. What do we talk about today, Rick?
Well, it's been a while. There's been a ton of news, right? We slowed down for a little bit to deal with the pandemic. Obviously, we've got a little project or product that you may know called Teams, right? as we interact with it. And of course, it's actually cloud native. It runs on the Azure infrastructure. So helping customers roll out, team deployment so they can do work from home and delivering features. Obviously, we're not on the engineering team, but providing feedback right into the engineering teams to make a good, solid, good experience. But Azure slowed down for a little bit, but it did not stop. Okay, it definitely
absolutely
not. Right, so
unprecedented growth in the platform.
Exactly, which is crazy. So we've got some content today around compliance with Azure security, making it just even that much easier to be in compliance. Essentially, we've got an upcoming event with Azure Synapse, which is super cool. Analytics, I should say, Azure Synapse Analytics. Another announcement in regards to Azure Front Door, which is exciting.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to this one.
Here's another secure zero trust blueprint, which is I just gave it away already. Total spoiler. Sorry.
That's all right.
We'll talk about it. It's really cool. And last but definitely not least, for those of you that are container folks, this is a great announcement around managing or mitigating data exfiltration. So why don't we go ahead and jump in with our monitoring your Azure workload compliance. So Mark, we've got some cool things in Azure Security Center already, right?
And this is another one. This is an addition in Azure Security Center of the Azure benchmark, security benchmark. And what it does is it adds a new capability to Security Center that allows you, that we have taken about 90 security best practices and added them in here as a benchmark, and you can see it in Azure Security Center and see how you're doing against them.
Yep. So if you're not quite ready for NIST, if you're not quite ready for CIS or ISO or any of the other, acronyms, but you still want a semblance of compliance, you still want to be able to sleep well at night, this is a great way to get started. And it's a great way to understand, per the recommendations and everything else, you can see on the screen, it tells you the resources, it tells you how many of them have failed, it gives you the ability to do mitigation, and it's just a great way to jumpstart your, strengthening your security in depth and security and visibility posture. Yeah. And so, as Mark said, it's about 90, I think, requirements, give or take, from various different requirement sets. And the other cool thing about this is, in some cases, you don't have to do anything because Azure already does it for you. So basically, check, encrypted at rest, some of the other aspects. So yeah, really slick. I like the fact that it kind of gives you an introduction, if you will, right, to getting compliant and raising that security bar. Because man, oh man, as we all know, that is going to be the criteria by which we are measured, is how secure our environments are.
Yeah, and this can really help you drive your secure score. And if you don't know what a secure score is, it's basically a single number that coordinates all of the security measures we know about and boils them down into a single number so that you know that you are increasing your security over time. So it can really help you drive that security score, that secure score, so that you know that you're getting better and better over time.
Absolutely. And that's what we try, just like wine, right? We get better with age.
That's right. Rick, that is so true. Never has more true thing ever been spoken about me. Not you, me.
Oh, fair enough. I just get crotchety and grumpy and mean and front lawn old man. Yeah.
Well, and the Millennium Falcon also gets better with age too.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
So I think the point here is, if you don't have a good security strategy, or if you're looking to kind of increase your security score, which, as you can see on the screen, you've got real-time monitoring of your security posture, this is going to help you raise that bar. So when somebody asks you, hey, how are we doing? Bring up your security score. Here's where we need to focus, and here's where we're doing awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, so awesome, super cool
stuff.
Yeah.
So go check it out. It's there. Wait a minute. What else? Yeah. What more did you have to pay to get the Azure the security benchmark added?
That would be bupkis.
Nothing. now Security Center does cost in some ways. There are some things that it brings on, like some of the threat detection. So that does cost. So there are some capabilities that you probably will want to pay for. I've actually never heard of a security person saying no to more security. So so anyway, so go check it out. It's awesome. You guys are gonna love it.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's hop over now to the next announcement. And this is actually a cool announcement. So, Mark, Azure Synapse is kind of the next generation thing, right? In terms of really what data consolidation, data analytics, data processing. I mean, what's the best way to describe Synapse?
Well, Synapse is kind of the center of the data world in Azure. It's one of the ways you can really make sure that process your data fast and move it in and out of things like blob storage, unstructured and blob storage. You can pull it into Azure Synapse, process it, and put it back out. And you might also be using that blob storage data for, maybe it's a data lake, maybe you'll use it in Databricks, but it's a central hub that allows you to not only serve the data to Power BI, but also put it back into blob storage so that your big data query engines can also get at it.
Super cool. Super cool. And so what I like about this announcement is, not only are we announcing an Azure Synapse Analytics How It Works virtual event, which is really cool, right? I definitely recommend checking it out. but you're going to hear directly from Microsoft Azure customers. You're going to hear from the horse's mouth, as they say. And I'm not saying our customers are horses. They're stallions, if they are. But you're going to hear right from the horse's mouth how they're using it to solve real world problems. This is not Contoso. This is not, AdventureWorks. This is not Tailspin. This is a real customer solving real problems. So
it's not even like it's not even like a contrived test.
No, exactly.
It's
straight
real
from them.
Customers
exactly.
doing real stuff. Yeah. So So if you want to learn more about how Azure Synapse Analytics works and not only how it works, which is the title of the meeting, but how people are using it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, and in other words, it's like Azure Synapse Analytics, how it works for specific customers, how they actually put it to use. So you'll want to check this out. It's Wednesday, June 17th. Yeah, so a month from now.
There's a register now button. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and by the way, register early for a chance to win a Microsoft Surface Go tablet.
What?
Yeah, right there at the bottom.
What? Are you serious?
Right.
That's awesome.
Now, unfortunately, if you're in Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Sudan, Syria, region of Crimea, or where else prohibited, unfortunately, you don't qualify. And I'm sure as Microsoft employees, we don't, but that's okay because it's all about you.
Oh, Rick.
I know.
I'm kind of sad. I need a Surface Go. Those things are awesome.
But anyway, definitely recommend registering. I think, especially in that data world, to your point, pulling it in, moving it out, just all the chocolatey goodness that comes with Azure Synapse Analytics, the analytics piece specifically, the blazing speed and all the cool stuff it offers. Check it out.
Yep. All right. So the next one is the front door. And I like front door.
Yes.
I mean, I just think it's a service that we don't talk about a lot. Or that I don't think customers maybe know about it as much. It's like a diamond in the rough. It's like, like it's the power of the Microsoft network, and I don't mean MSN. I mean the Microsoft actual physical global network in your hands to deliver your traffic to your backends through our it's just one of the biggest networks in the world.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculously huge. This is the World Wide Web. I mean, it is a web, right? I mean, that's really what this comes down to. But so with Azure Front Door, to your point, it gives you an onboarding. Is that the best way to put it? Onboarding, or it gives you the ability to get as close as possible to the Azure infrastructure, and then get to your resources from your perspective, from a customer's perspective. So it's really an edge type of ingress model, if you will, right? Egress model at the edge.
Yeah, and so your customers hit our points of presence or a POP out at the edge, and we have POPs all over the world and all over the United States. And the customers and they just get onto our network right away. And one of our friends you guys have seen and know Matt Lunzer. He's been on the show a few times. I love what he says about this. He calls it cold potato routing.
Yes, exactly.
He calls it cold potato, and here's what we mean by that. So actually, we'll explain what hot potato routing and cold potato routing will make sense. So hot potato routing means that
I love it.
You might go to a POP for say Akamai, and then the very next thing that Akamai does is it drops you back onto the network, back onto the internet. Hot potato. They come in, you kind of serve up cache, and then they hot potato you back onto the internet to finish going to the back end. And that's not how it works in Azure. In Azure Front Door, you actually go to one of our POPs, you ingress onto our network, and we cold potato route you. In other words, we keep you on our network and use the Azure network as your connection between the closest POP to your customer and your backend in Azure.
Exactly.
So it's a very unique service, very awesome.
Oh, it's super cool.
And not today, this was actually not that long ago, earlier this week.
6 days ago.
Yeah. We announced a new rules engine in preview.
Yep.
And so this allows you to do more than path-based routing. It opens up a whole new set of capabilities that you haven't had a chance to use yet.
Absolutely. So you've got some great things, of course, stuff you would hope to see enforcing HTTPS, right, to interact over secure connection. Security headers, so you can do things like you can CORS, right? You've got access control allow origin headers for core scenarios if you are doing cross-origin resource scripting, cross-site scripting protection, right? Content security policy. So a lot of cool different things that in the past you may have had to implement, say, an APIM, Azure API management, or maybe you even had to implement it at the application level. You can now actually put this at the edge basically with front door and implement these rules. So additional things like routing based on headers, cookies, or query strings, which is cool. Redirects. I won't, obviously people can read, so I'm not going to go through the whole list. But what's cool about the matching conditions is you can see how the rules engine works. So it's very straightforward. It's, match condition false, match condition true. With a header, if you've got a response header and it matches that condition, say for file extension JPEG, it's going to forward the rule or forward the route. And if not, it's basically going to, and you can control the response that you give, right? But I think this one is interesting too. So this one, so you can see redirect. So if I match condition mobile, I'm going to take them to the mobile instance of the website. If I do not match the condition mobile, I'm going to take them to the standard website. And I think you raised another interesting example, Mark, too, when we were talking about this beforehand.
Yeah, if you have an application that you host in East and the West, or let's say you host it, actually you host it, your customers on the East Coast, and you want to host your whole application in East and E2. You're really close, but you want to load balance your customers across those two. Well, you don't have to load balance a hard code, or you don't have to tell your customers which backend. You could actually have a rule in here that looks at which customer it is and says that if it's matching one customer, it redirects them to the East. And if it doesn't match, it redirects them to East 2. So then that way, what you end up with is a front end load balancer that uses redirects to do the load balancing using these rules.
Exactly. So A/B testing,
which is really similar to what we're doing here with www.mobile.contoso.com. So you can just imagine your app being east.myapp.garnerstuff.com and west.myapp.garnerstuff.com, and then you can just redirect people to whichever one you feel like redirecting them to.
Yeah, exactly. So having the rules engine incorporated into Azure Front Door, I think it just makes it that much more powerful. And when you combine Front Door with things like CDN and App Gateway and all the other technologies that kind of are, I'll say, a mashup of best practices, if you will, in regards to having publicly facing digital properties, this is a really good way to continue to, path-based routing, rule matching, different experiences. So it gives you that flexibility, which is really cool. And it keeps you on the Microsoft Global Network, which last time I checked, we had about 144,000 of direct route fiber. I have no idea if that number, how out of date that number is, but I'm sure it is. But
I bet it's,
that cold potato,
it's gone up since then.
I'm sure it has. But that cold potato hopefully is on one of those direct route, miles of actual fiber. So
yeah, we will keep your cold potato on our network.
And we'll keep it cold. We'll keep it
icy.
I
never thought I would ever say that on a show, but I just did.
I love it. So complementary to kind of the first thing we talked about with the Azure security score, right? A big thing these days, a big topic these days in the security world is zero trust, right? So zero trust essentially means I see you, but I'm not going to give you any trust, right? So it's from an authentication perspective. It's from a role RBAC perspective, rights. What do you have rights to do? And basically it's saying, I'm not going to trust you and I'm always going to verify that you are who you say you are, right? Repudiation is king.
Trust but verify.
Yes, we've heard that before. A long time ago if you're old like us, right?
Trust but verify.
So the cool thing, there's three primary principles, right, in this end-to-end strategy. Verify explicitly, right? Don't implicitly assume they are who they say they are. Enforce least privilege access, which I'm a huge proponent of. And of course, always assume breach. And it could be impossible. You may have air-gapped the system and there's no way, the computer's on for 2 minutes every day, assume somebody got in, right?
Yeah,
and once you assume they got in, how do you block them?
Yeah, and I think that this is a really important one. For instance, if you have internal systems that don't have a username and password on them that'll just allow people on because you assume they're safe because they're inside your network, this is what we're talking about. Just assume that somebody's already on your network and has credentials and has access, that you need to make sure and authenticate them on a known device using things like multi-factor authentication and risk-based profiling using conditional access. Those kinds of things are how we verify you are who you say you are on a device that we know about and we connect you through secure channels.
But super cool. So the cool thing about this, though, as we're talking about zero trust, we've got a blueprint for this.
and this is Azure Blueprints. This is
Correct.
Azure Blueprints, and meaning like there is an actual set of ARM templates and
Yep.
policies that go all together in a package. That's what an Azure Blueprint is, and
Yep.
you can actually start to deploy some of these infrastructure pieces configured in a way that is configured for zero trust.
Yep. So basically terraforming a new environment with from nothing, with really every component not trusting anything else, right? So what's interesting is you see this if you're working with apps that need to comply with FedRAMP or DoD impact level 4 requirements, or of course you just want to improve your security posture. This is a way to do it.
Yep. And this also includes a company called Exacta, which is involved here, which kind of interacts with the policy and the blueprints to make sure it makes it easier to manage the compliance policies and track their status. So there is a really nice integration here with one of our security partners, Exacta.
Yeah, it's very cool. And of course, there's also the monitoring of containers within this environment with Anchor. So they
I guess
recently
it would be Anchor.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because, obviously we recently, not that long ago, GA'd Windows containers, right? Within the AKS space. And now you've got Anchor Enterprise 2.3, which does deep image inspection of Windows container images. And this is where DevSecOps comes into play, right? So DevSecOps says security is front and center, right? It's sandwiched between Dev and Ops. And just rolling out containers no, right? So you can do deep inspection, deep image inspection. You can crack it open, you can see what's in there, you can look for vulnerabilities. But it's just another way that you don't have people rolling out containers in your enterprise without really knowing what's inside that black box.
That's right. That's right.
So super cool. There's a fairly lengthy 6-part blog series on Azure on the Azure Government Dev blog related to this. But I would definitely think about going out and taking a look at that. It's again, it's all about raising your security posture. It's creating security in depth, security in broad coverage, and mitigate that I call it mitigate the blast radius when something does happen.
That's right.
If something.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Assume breach.
That's
breach, right?
Always assume breach. Absolutely.
That's right.
So that takes us
All right.
to
So we have customers that use containers,
Yes,
and they need registries. They need secure registries. And guess what?
Yes, they do.
We've got one, and we continue to make it better and better.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this is an announcement around Azure Container Registry. So ultimately the goal, as the title explains, is to mitigate data exfiltration with dedicated data endpoints. Okay. So dedicated data endpoints, what does that mean, right? So you've got a registry endpoint that you can say, as the command shows, Docker pull, and you contoso.azure.cr.io whack, image name or container name. And then you also have blobs that represent the content layers, right? One of the concerns with those blobs is, well, they're storage accounts, right? So registry managed storage accounts, it's Azure Container Registry is a multi-tenant service, but the endpoints in the storage accounts are managed by the service itself, right? So there's lots of benefits of that, which is, again, load balancing, content splitting, et cetera, multiple copies for HA. But it's also in blob storage. And so if you've got some intellectual property, or if you're concerned about data exfiltration, if you're concerned about things getting out into the wild, even though you're doing all the best practices, we're going to give you an extra layer so that you can essentially wall off or create another moat, if you will, around that content.
Yep. And so whenever we're talking about private link virtual network support, this is one capability we have today where you can make your container registry available on the network that Kubernetes is running. So it can use the VNet to do the connectivity, and you can block off the public internet access, as you can see with this.
Exactly.
I don't know, black hat hacker, I guess.
I know, it's kind of a goofy little icon. It's creepy.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's kind of creepy. I don't know what that is. But anyway, so that's the bad guy.
This scenario,
I know that.
In this scenario, you can see with private link, it stops that person from breaking into that environment and then traversing back out to the container registry, right?
That's right. That's right.
And then, of course, you've got client firewalls for data exfiltration risks, where you can see allow, where you can go to these endpoints from the VNet, right? So we're only going to give you access to these certain endpoints. But the problem is, again, assume breach. In this image right here specifically, if you're listening at home, there's a new image with basically somebody has gotten into the virtual network by way of social engineering credentials, or maybe they've done something from on-prem to connect to the VNet backdoor, something that they've compromised, whatever. Let's just assume they breached, right? Well, because we have that allow splat.blob.core.windows.net, in theory, if they've compromised that VNet, they can get access to the Azure storage account associated with the data layer for those containers, right?
And they can exfiltrate data to Azure storage,
exactly.
something.blob.core.windows.net. So
exactly.
That's one of the things about working on Azure. If somebody breaches you from within Azure, some of the rules that you set up to make your storage accounts work may actually also allow them to exfiltrate data to other Azure endpoints. But this capability does away with that by giving you dedicated data endpoints for your storage account, so that you can allow that endpoint and not allow blob.core.windows.net.
Exactly. So you can see in the image, for those of you at home listening, unfortunately you can't see this, but you've got firewall rules for allow contoso.azure.cr.io, which is your container registry. And then, of course, you've got allow East US and West US to actually contoso.eastus.data.azure.cr.io. So that's really the representation instead of splat.blob, right? Because when you open splat.blob, you open it up everything,
all storage accounts. You allow egress from your VNet, which you're assuming you've been breached, that a bad actor is there. You're allowing egress to other storage accounts in Azure because you already opened splat.blob. But this way, we get a very dedicated URL so that we can allow our VNet to access the Azure Container Registry on this unique URL, and then we can continue to blob egress to Azure Blob storage accounts.
Exactly. So it's important to note, though, when you are moving to dedicated data endpoints, it's going to impact those of you that are using configured firewall access to go to splat.blob.core.windows.net endpoints, right? So this is not that same endpoint. It will fail. So you have to make sure that if you are using whitelisting on your firewalls, that you add these new data endpoints to the client firewall so that you're able to connect to it.
That's right. And that's the whole point, is we're getting off of splat.blob.core.windows.net and moving to a dedicated URL that's only good for this one specific use case.
Exactly. And then, of course, with private link, again, there really is a super secure way. It's great, but when it's not an option, dedicated data endpoints can give you the secure knowledge. Basically, that you're at least prohibiting that data exfiltration from storage account to storage account, which is, again, let's just assume somebody got in and let's cut them off at the knees.
That's right.
Yeah.
But man, we have some good stuff. And here's the deal. I think you told me this before the show. There was more. We haven't covered it yet.
So much more.
We have a because we've been off for about 2 months now, almost month and a half, maybe. It's not good. It's not good.
No.
So what Rick and I have discussed is we're going to try to get back on the air sooner rather than later, maybe even sooner than a week. And try and do another show and cover a little bit more content. So we hope you guys will watch YouTube and watch the iTunes and Google playlists, and we also tweet when we have a new show at Azure Flash News. So if you want to know when there's a new show, make sure and go follow at Azure Flash News. You'll find the news there.
Absolutely. And Mark, if they have any questions from today's podcast, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can catch me on my email address, which right now is kind of the way to get me. Because we're all just scattered at home. You definitely won't see me at our office. My email address is mgarner@microsoft.com. Please feel free to send me an email, and that's actually probably the best way. You can also tweet me. I am on the Twitter, and you can catch me. Oh, you're big now. You can catch me on Twitter at mgarner on Twitter. And Rick, what about you?
I am available at Rick, WEY, at Microsoft.com. if you need to get a hold of me, of course, via email, or please just tweet us at Azure Flash News. Like I said in the beginning of this episode, would love to hear from you guys. Would love to know how you're staying sane in this, I know we're starting to slowly open things up, but it's easy to go crazy. And if you're like me, again, I've discovered I'm a social creature and I love the interaction. So let us know. And by next episode, I will have snuck in, barring no symptoms, I will make my way in to grab those the rest of the coffee mugs so that we can do some giveaways.
Yep. Yeah. You can probably sneak in here. I think our office is unlocked, but we're not supposed to go there. So let's just stay home. Stay home. Stay safe.
Correct. I did have to go in for an ADS engagement with a customer because I needed access to the whiteboard and some of the other technologies. My drawing is bad enough on a laptop.
Using your mouse,
make
right?
It worse. Yeah, exactly. So
not good.
Yeah, I'm going to be bouncing in, grab those, and we'll have some mugs, hopefully by at least some announcements for the winners.
So make sure to tweet us.
Yes, please. Please. So that brings us kind of to the top of the half hour.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you for joining remotely. Obviously,
thanks,
great
Rick.
to see your face,
Thanks for joining me from a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. We appreciate that too.
So in honor of that, I'll say we look forward to speaking with you same time. Well, I shouldn't say that. We look forward to the next time we can get together. But until then, keep your hand on the light speed controls and your head in the Cloud City.
The Cloud City. That's right. I like it. Bye, everybody.
All right,
See ya.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.